For pretty much 2,000 years, one story has shaped the entire world. But what if there was another version? A text supposedly just as ancient that tells a completely different tale. That's what we're digging into today, the source material behind one of the most controversial documents you might ever hear of, the Talmud of Jmmanuel. Just imagine this for a second. You're south of Jerusalem. It's 1963. You stumble upon a small opening in the ground, and it leads to a tomb that's been forgotten for centuries. Inside, a set of ancient scrolls, all wrapped up and hidden away. This is exactly where our story kicks off, not just with a big question, but with a discovery that claims to have the answer. Now, before we even get into what these scrolls actually say, the story of how they were found in our time, it's a thriller all on its own. Trust me, this was not some clean, quiet, academic find. According to the sources, it was an incredibly dangerous one. Yeah, this timeline, it really tells you something. After the scrolls were found in 63, the man who was translating them, a guy named Isa Rashid, found his life was constantly under threat. By 74, he had to flee to a refugee camp. When that camp was bombed, he ran again, this time to Baghdad. And just 2 years later, he and his entire family were assassinated. The sources claim it was all because of the words he was translating. So what on earth was so dangerous? Well, the very first page dropped an absolute bombshell. The author of this text wasn't some unknown scribe. According to the translation, the author was Judas Ishkerioth. Yeah, that Judas. But he wasn't writing as a betrayer. He was writing as the official scribe and loyal student of the man he called Jmmanuel. But the author's identity, that's really just the beginning. The text completely flips the script on the origins of its main character, taking the story from something earthly to something, well, cosmic. First off, the name. The figure we all know as Jesus is called Jmmanuel in these scrolls. And that name isn't just a name, it's more like a title. It translates to the one with godly knowledge. It's a really deliberate shift, from a name to a whole description of his purpose. And right here is where the story takes a hard turn into what sounds like science fiction, or what the source material presents as cosmic fact. Jmmanuel's origin is described as having two parts. His biological father, it says, was not from Earth, but an extraterrestrial named Gabriel. At the same time, his consciousness was the reincarnation of a super ancient spirit form named Nokodemion, a being who'd been guiding civilizations for millions of years. And this dual origin thing, it wasn't just some fancy backstory. According to the text, it was the actual source of his power. This mix of advanced biology and ancient spiritual wisdom is what gave him abilities that, to regular people, seemed completely miraculous. So, with an origin story like that, it's really no surprise that the story of his life is also totally different. The biography in the Talmud of Jmmanuel, it fills in some famous blanks and completely rewrites some very famous chapters. This text lays out a stunningly different life story. You know those missing years from age 12 to 32? It says he was traveling, studying philosophy and medicine across India, Nepal, and Central Asia. His family life is also totally fleshed out, identifying Mary Magdalene as his stepsister, and, get this, giving him a twin brother, Judas Thomas. And then there's the big one. The betrayal was all just a case of mistaken identity. Okay, so here's the central twist. The Talmud claims there were two different guys with really similar names. Judas Ishkerioth was the loyal scribe, the good guy. The man who actually betrayed Jmmanuel for 30 pieces of silver, that was a guy named Judas Ishkerioth, the son of a Pharisee. It's such a tiny change in spelling, but it completely rewrites history's most famous act of betrayal.
So, a news story for the betrayal leads to an equally dramatic retelling of the crucifixion. In this version, it's not a story about resurrection. It's a story about survival.
So, how did he survive? The text lays it out, step by step. First, on the cross, Jmmanuel didn't actually die. He used his knowledge to enter a deep, death-like trance. Then, Joseph of Arimathea, his great-uncle, had him taken down and put in his own family tomb. In there, hidden away, a team of healers from India worked on him for 3 days and 3 nights to bring him back, before he finally slipped out through a secret exit. And you have to wonder, how could anyone survive that? Well, the text circles right back to his cosmic origins. It says his survival was thanks to his advanced extraterrestrial biological resilience, which he got from his father Gabriel. combined with the immense power of that ancient Nokodymian spirit form that was his consciousness. And in this story, his life didn't end in Jerusalem. Not even close. It was actually just the start of a whole new chapter. He traveled east, eventually settling down in Kashmir, India. And there, he got married, had 4 children, and kept on teaching for decades and decades. He lived, according to this text, to be 113 years old, and his final resting place wasn't some empty tomb in Jerusalem, but a grave in Srinagar, Kashmir, after a very long and very full life. So, what was the whole point of this epic, cosmic long life? Well, the last part of the text is all about the message Jmmanuel left behind, a message he believed was so important that it was basically destined to be found again. The core teachings here are all about human potential. The main idea is that all humans can tap into this universal creation energy to literally shape their own reality. It teaches that life doesn't just end, it continues through reincarnation, and that the whole point of that cycle is to grow spiritually and just live a good ethical life. And this is where the story of the scrolls themselves comes full circle. The text, written by the loyal Judas Ishkerioth, was supposedly finished while Jmmanuel was still alive in India. After he died, his oldest son, Joseph, is said to have carried the original scrolls all the way back to Jerusalem and hidden them in the very same tomb his father had escaped from, where they would wait for almost 2,000 years. You know, whether you look at this as a real historical document or an incredibly elaborate piece of fiction or something else entirely, the Talmud of Jmmanuel makes you ask a really fascinating question. What is truth? Is it just one single unchangeable thing, or is it a story that can evolve, with different versions holding different meanings for different people? That's definitely something to chew on.